What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you have been having a fantastic Thursday. It is Thursday, the third day, January 16th, 2025. I have not messed up yet here in the new year and called it 2024 at any specific moment in time. I am live. We are live in the Bleacher Report app, as we are every single Tuesday and Thursday. Will be throughout all of 2025. 6 p.m. Central Standard Time is when we go live. You can, of course, catch the rewatch on demand here in the Bleacher Report app. Normally, we do live stream these in parallel on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel, but the functionality was a little bit, it didn't work, to be quite honest with you, on Thursday. So if you are watching this on Blogging the Boys, you're watching it after the fact, because I will definitely upload it. It will always be up for you one way or another, obviously. But if you are live here in the Bleacher Report app, welcome. You can follow me in the Bleacher Report app right down below. You can see all the teams that I root for, which obviously includes the Dallas Cowboys for some reason, which includes Manchester United. What a fantastic week we are having, Reds. Includes Arizona State. Shout out to my Sun Devils, of course. And yeah, that's where we're at here. You can follow me on social media as well. You saw how to do that: Twitter, Instagram, Threads at RJ Ochoa. I guess we're gone TikTok. So if you want to, between now and Sunday or whatever, RJ.Ochoa. That being said, it is Thursday and we have a lot to get to. Today we're going to be ranking prospective Dallas Cowboys head coaching candidates. And as you can see, my tweet on the screen, let me zoom out right there for you. All right. So where we're at right now is it is day 3 in totality of the Dallas Cowboys looking for a new head coach, obviously moving on from Mike McCarthy on Monday. So this is the third full day, obviously, the Cowboys have been searching. This is where we're at, and we're keeping tabs on this for you all the time at bloggingtheboys.com, so make sure you visit that. I'll put the link to the description of the tracker on the YouTube side of things. The tweet you're looking at is mine, and you can see right here, this is the full rumors tracker, obviously. Anything that happens, any piece of information relative to the Cowboys and their coaching search, we have there for you, so you have it all neat, nice, and organized in one place. As of now, as of Thursday evening, and if anything pops up, obviously, while we're on live, we'll get to it, but we've got interview set with Robert Saleh, former New York Jets coach, Leslie Frazier, who has been around, but if you want to talk most notable things, former Minnesota Vikings head coach, actually, incidentally, preceded Mike Zimmer in Minnesota, 2011 to 2013. I think 2010, actually, 2013, excuse me, on Coach Frazier recently with the Seattle Seahawks. Kell Moore was officially requested by the Cowboys on Thursday morning / lunchtime. That was the least shocking development of all time. We all knew, obviously, that the Cowboys were eventually going to request an interview with their former offensive coordinator. I see you, your boy Mike 12, in the chat. Let's put the comment on the screen for everybody over here. Says, Kell Moore is a yes man, just like Mike McCarthy and Jason Garrett before that. Worst possible hire we can make. Hashtag don't hire Kell Moore. So, okay, we'll get to ranking these and whatnot. But the other names, there are 5 total names to kind of get to here, because there have been 2 other names that have been thrown out in the mix, if you want to call it that. They have not been thrown out as far as official interviews and official interview processes and things like that. But Deion Sanders, Coach Prime at Colorado, obviously, and Jason Whitten, who's coaching at Liberty Christian in Argyle, Texas. That's a high school for those of you who are unaware. So here's where I'm at, and I've tweeted this several times, kind of offered my opinion, kind of offered my take, and I think that this is important context, an important way to look at it. I want nothing to do with Jason Whitten. I want absolutely nothing, and we talked about this on Tuesday. This is the most nepotism-driven thing that could possibly happen. And there was a report that came out. This is what I was trying to get up on the screen right now. Let's see if I can do it. There was a report that came out on Thursday. Shout out to a friend of mine, friend of Blogging the Boys, Ed Werder. Ed Werder tweeted this out. I believe, this is Ed Werder's opinion, to be very clear, just an opinion. This isn't quite a report, but I believe there's a very high probability that depending upon whom is hired as head coach, that Jason Whitten will be included in the staff. There were scenarios discussed with Mike McCarthy when he was hired that could have happened, but McCarthy was understandably, et cetera, et cetera. So this is our homepage, by the way, bloggingtheboys.com. As you can see, it's been a busy day relative to the coaching front. So let's talk about the Jason Whitten thing. I'm going in ascending order, if that's not obvious. Number 5 on my list, because there are 5 names that have been connected. We don't have any legitimate ties yet to anybody like Pete Carroll or John Gruden. So it goes without saying that they would both rank ahead of Jason Witten as far as football is concerned in my mind, but they haven't been connected to a strong enough degree yet that I feel it's fair to include them in this discussion. So there are 5 names we talked about a moment ago. Jason Witten, clearly number 5. Jason Witten has been coaching high school football for 4 years. Dude's got his first graduating class ever. That's it. That's it, man. Like, we're not talking about somebody who's been, this isn't like Phil Danaher. This isn't, somebody who's been in the game for like a million years and doing something is like going to maybe take the next step. And look, I've lived in Texas my whole life. I have called high school football. I'm in no way diminishing the value that it can provide or what it can teach, not just to the students and the athletes, but obviously the staffers. It is a very serious thing. And winning a state championship, as Jason Witten just did, is a very, very difficult thing to do. That being said, to just automatically have his name connected to the Dallas Cowboys head coaching position is absurd. I recognize that he has an enormous NFL career and he's one of the greatest players in team history, but I would offer that the fact that he is one of the greatest players in team history is the problem here. The Joneses have a history, a very, very long history of just saying yes to their dudes, their people, their boys. Jason Witten went on the Duke UNC trips with Jason Garrett, Tony Romo, and DeMarco Murray. Jason Witten and the aforementioned Tony Romo went on vacation with the Jones family, all the families all together. I mean, you cannot in any way tell me that this is about football. This is about getting the guy they want, and many of you have rightfully, understandably, obviously pointed this out. The whole situation feels very, very reminiscent of Jason Garrett getting hired before Wade Phillips in 2007. That did happen for our younger, newer audience. In 2007, after Bill Parcells retired, the Cowboys hired offensive coordinator Jason Garrett before hiring head coach Wade Phillips, and they paid him an enormous amount of money. And Garrett was a little bit more removed from having played for the Cowboys. It was 9 years, as opposed to Jason Witten's 5 years at this point in time. But this is equally absurd. I mean, at the very least, Jason Garrett had been coaching in the NFL at that point in time when he got the Cowboys offensive coordinator gig. This is just, we want that guy. We want him. This is typecasting. We want that person to play the lead in this movie. We're looking for an actual profile. We're looking for someone who's this height, hair colors this, whatever eye colors are this. We're casting Katniss Everdeen, and we've got to go by the description in The Hunger Games that Susanna Collins wrote. I mean, that's what this is. It's not about evaluating what they offer to you from a football standpoint. So for that reason alone, I think that that's a massive reason Jason Witten is easily number 5 on my list. And it is a significant drop. I mean, I'm talking absolutely, unbelievably, so far of a drop significant for Jason Witten to be number 5 on my list out of the 5 names that have been presented so far. Now, we have a report, obviously, that Leslie Frazier is among those who are being interviewed by the Dallas Cowboys, set to be interviewed by the Dallas Cowboys. Let's put our tracker up on the screen for you here. Once again, you can check this out at bloggingtheboys.com. We update it all the time, all day, every day in this life. And we have trackers for things like this, free agency, et cetera, et cetera. But that being said, we got the news about Leslie Frazier. I'm looking for it right here. It's somewhere down here. Here we are. The Cowboys requested to interview Seahawks assistant coach Leslie Frazier. He was the Vikings coach. It was 2011. I knew it. I should have trusted myself. I don't really feel like this is much of anything. I mean, of all the names, there are 5 other teams at the moment actively looking for a new head coach in the NFL, and we haven't seen Leslie Frazier's name be connected to any of them. That is a very kind of off-the-wall, random, out-of-nowhere name that you're discussing, but I digress. Now, for what it's worth, Yahoo's Jory Epstein mentioned, you can read, obviously, Anthony Lynn and Brian Johnson, who are on the Washington staff. Those are names that we haven't really seen be connected to anybody else either. These are options, again, to consider, but they haven't been connected to the Cowboys in the same way. If it isn't obvious, I'm putting Leslie Frazier at number 4 on my list. Jason Witten number 5, Leslie Frazier is number 4. That leaves us with 3 more candidates. We've got Kell Moore, we've got Robert Saleh, and we've got Deion Sanders. And I cannot express enough that this is how I am evaluating this list. Your ranking of these 5 may be different, and I would certainly be interested to hear exactly what your ranking is, and you can let me know in the comments down below on YouTube and the comments on Bleacher Report. You can message me on Bleacher Report, or you can hit me up on any one of these social medias. The best way for me to see something directly is probably an Instagram DM if you are curious. That being said, number 3 for me, and this might shock people, of the 3 names that we're talking about here, whether it be, or it is obviously Kell Moore, Robert Saleh, and Deion Sanders. Number 3 for me, and this is, I don't want this, is Kell Moore. I do not want anything to do with Kell Moore. It was reported on Thursday, once again, that the Cowboys were going to be interviewing him. It's supposed to happen on Saturday. We ran this poll. This is what I was pulling up at bloggingtheboys.com. How do you feel about Kell Moore as the potential Dallas Cowboys head coach? 41% say love it, 59% say hate it. And this poll has been up for, I don't know, about 7-8 hours at this point in time. And the reason I want nothing to do with Kellen Moore is because we've seen this movie. I mean, we've seen this movie time and time and time again. I'm not going to sit here and deny that Kellen Moore helped lead some incredibly successful offenses for the Dallas Cowboys, but I would argue that A, that was a long time ago. B, we don't give Mike McCarthy any credit for the success that the 2023 team had on offense. And C, the most important element of all of those offenses is still in tow in the quarterback and Dak Prescott. The common denominator is him. Maybe he's the person who's boosting the successes that we've seen from Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy. Not saying that either of them are bad or horrible at their jobs or anything like that, but I would offer that Eagles fans right now, and you can tell me if any of you are checking this out and trolling and having fun because your team's in the divisional round and ours isn't, Eagles fans aren't like in love with Kellen Moore right now. Eagles fans aren't really feeling the like renaissance of Kellen Moore the way that Cowboys fans did early in the experience, like 2019, 2021-ish. I mean, Kellen Moore really is kind of proving that he is dependent on having elite offensive talent working for him. We just forget. Seriously, we just completely and totally act like last year with the Chargers didn't exist because it doesn't work to the narrative that Kellen Moore is awesome. My argument isn't that Kellen Moore sucks or that he's bad or that he's terrible or anything like that. My argument is that we have seen this. We have lived it. And the Cowboys were comfortable enough moving on. It's kind of like, I've always thought it was interesting, and it's ironic that Kellen Moore is the Eagles offensive coordinator, as I bring up this analogy. I've always found it to be interesting whenever quarterbacks are drafted in the second round. And I'm not the only person who thinks this, but the premise behind that idea is a quarterback is the most important piece that you can have on your offense, right? On your football team. You need a quarterback above anything at any single moment in time. You have to have a quarterback. It goes without saying, right? That being said, if a quarterback is that important, if it's the most essential thing, how could you draft anything else ahead of it, right? Like if the quarterback is the straw that stirs the drink, why would you draft the drink first? You get what I'm saying? Like you need the straw. And so in that same sort of sense, the Cowboys already moved on from Kellen Moore, and they moved on very recently. It was 2 years ago. Excuse me. I'm allergic to this subject, apparently. That being said, they were comfortable enough moving on 2 years ago. And when they could have moved on from Mike McCarthy if they really wanted to, but they didn't. Why didn't they want to move on from Mike McCarthy? Probably because Jerry Jones didn't want to pay Mike McCarthy to not coach for the team. And so if that's where your priorities are ultimately derived from, I mean, what is the point here? What is the plan here? I could understand this idea. Thank you, S Master Flash says, bless you. That's very kind of you. I can understand this idea and this argument more if the Eagles offense had just been unstoppable. But we have actually seen this Eagles team be a more potent offense in this time, in recent memory, with a different offensive coordinator. Brian Johnson obviously was a part of that, right? Like I think that we all kind of believe that Shane Steichen was underrated relative to what he offered the Eagles a couple of years ago. And obviously now things in Indianapolis are what they are. But I don't believe that Kellen Moore is like the guy. And is he even like a leader of men? I'm not trying to judge him or anything like that, but I just don't see how this works. It is absurd to me that at any point in time, Kellen Moore was coaching Dak Prescott. I know that's not the rarest of things in the NFL, but I mean, for anyone who doesn't remember, Dak Prescott beat out Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore's ankle broke, and that opened the door for Dak Prescott 9 years ago. But after that, in 2017, Kellen Moore was Dak Prescott's backup. And then the other quarterback on the Cowboys roster, not named Trey Lance, beat out Kellen Moore as well. In 2017, an undrafted free agent, Cooper Rush, beat out Kellen Moore and relegated him to the practice squad. And everybody complained that Kellen was taking up that roster spot on the practice squad until the Cowboys finally moved on and pushed him into the coaching profession. S Master Flash says, did Hurts have a great year? I would offer that this is kind of the weakest Jalen Hurts we've ever seen. Some of that is that 2022 was exemplary from Jalen Hurts. But, I mean, in what way? We cannot just say, oh, well, Kellen was awesome with the Cowboys a couple of years ago. So much was different about that. So much was, about Amari Cooper being on the team as well. And having Tony Pollard as a part of things. And maybe it would be the same if you had more talent on the team. But do we really trust the Cowboys to go out and add more talent to the team? No. So for me, Kellen Moore is number 3 on this list very comfortably. S Master Flash, I agree with your comment here. It says the Cowboys need to diversify their senior coaching staff, need a new firm voice. And that's the thing, like ultimately, and it's unfair to Kellen. I recognize that. And this also is applicable to Jason Whitten. I'm sick of this. I think I speak for all of us. We are sick of this general group of this era. We're done with Fast and the Furious movies, right? Like, you just keep doing it's fast cars driving on tracks or driving on the streets. Like, you've got to do something different. You have been stuck with this general kind of mix of people since Jason Garrett plagued this franchise in 2007 and then rippled in all the way through his full-term coaching period from 2011 through 2019. So I am completely in agreement that the Cowboys are in sore need of a reset, and we were supposed to get that with Mike McCarthy, but of course the Cowboys insisted on keeping Kell Moore as a holdover from the Jason Garrett staff. S Master Flash adds, we need a Shanahan offensive coordinator disciple to help offense and defense. There aren't many Kyle Shanahan offensive disciples out there right now. There is a former defensive one, obviously, by way of Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh is my second choice to be the Dallas Cowboys head coach. Let's get this up on your screen. You can read, you can read coaching profiles on each and every single one of these coaches at blogontheboys.com as well. We have you covered, obviously, from head to toe relative to all Dallas Cowboys coaching news. I don't love the idea of Robert Saleh. I mean, like, and let me be very, very, very clear here. The 5 names that we're talking about, the 5 names that we've been ranking and discussing so far, there is not one that I'm like, oh man, this is on my wish list. Like, this is my dream. Like, yes, we've hit the lottery. Not a single one of these, kind of does that for me. But the way we're ranking these is, this is the order that I hate them the least in, right? Like, number 1 on this list is the idea that I hate the least. And that's just kind of where we're at, because we don't expect that the Dallas Cowboys are going to be in the mix for somebody like Ben Johnson. And even then, Ben Johnson's kind of the only name that is, regarded well right now. Aaron Glenn, I suppose, but that's kind of it. It's a down cycle, which is part of why this was a risky proposition at best to go down. S Master Flash says, would Saleh as head coach keep Harris to groom as a defensive coordinator? S Master Flash, I'm glad you asked this question. I'm going to pin it here on the chat, because this is nothing against U.S. Master Flash, and certainly nothing against Al Harris, who I love. He's a Texas A&M University in Kingsville, Javelina, a school that I love very much. I don't want Al Harris back. And I say that with just the highest level of regard and respect for Al Harris, because we can't talk out of both sides of our mouth. We can't say, I want no Kell Moore. I want nothing to do with that. I want nothing. I want clean. I want restart. I want refresh. I want to wipe the slate clean. Oh, but please, please, please keep Al Harris. No. And you know what? Ultimately, I can be convinced if the new head coach, whoever it is, says, I want Al Harris, then and comes to that decision of their own accord, of their own volition. But if the Cowboys are forcing this new would-be assistant or coordinator or whatever on the new head coach, it's the same problem that we live in. It's the same exact thing in a philosophical sense as pushing Jason Whitten as a position coach or a coordinator on them. You should let this person decide, and you should surrender full and total control of their coaching staff to the head coach in question. So I don't really care. And again, I say that with nothing but absolute respect for Al Harris, if he comes back or not, because it should be a decision that the head coach makes, whether it's Robert Saleh or Deion Sanders or Jason Witten or whoever the case may be. That's what matters the most to me, is that that person has that full, complete, total, absolute authority to be able to make those decisions. And if that person doesn't have that, then you're screwed. I mean, you're doing things improperly, and we are living what we've been trapped with for the 30th year in a row, officially, obviously, with 1995 being the last important year this team has had. So to get back to Robert Saleh, he is the newest kind of option for me. Obviously, Jason Witten and Kell Moore aren't new. Leslie Frazier, again, feels just kind of random. S Master Flash, I guess quickly, says thoughts on Liam Cohen. Doesn't have to be quick, but I love the idea of Liam Cohen, but I put Liam Cohen in the same box that I put Joe Brady in, and to a degree that I put Ben Johnson in. The Cowboys are not about to hand over, coaching power and coaching authority, the coaching spot or spotlight in general, to somebody who they don't know, to somebody who has very little experience. That's where Robert Saleh has a better chance of becoming the new head coach. He's been a head coach in the NFL before. He has some skins on the wall, so to speak. The idea of Dallas taking that level of risk, unfortunately, is so unbelievable that it feels, I mean, to be quite frank, it feels silly to even consider these options, because they're not that bold. They're not that visionary. They're not that cunning. They're not that willing to roll the dice. They just want to do it their way. And if they win, cool. If they don't, cool. It really doesn't matter. They're going to be the number one most valuable professional sports franchise in the world regardless. But like I said, Robert Saleh is a head coach, former head coach in a big market, knows the right people, was somewhat groomed by Kyle Shanahan. So you can obviously argue that he's a branch off of that tree. I mean, all these boxes are kind of checked for the Cowboys in that particular sense. And I have made fun of Robert Saleh myself. I think I thought at the time, I still think that we really overreacted to Aaron Rodgers obviously joining the Jets, and we acted as if everything around them was perfect, as if Robert Saleh was just going to be amazing. I think that Robert Saleh was definitely partly to blame for what happened with the Jets. I think we all agree that Aaron Rodgers was kind of the primary culprit there, but that doesn't absolve Robert Saleh of any sort of blame. Is he used to and accustomed to dealing with the circus act that owners like Jerry Jones can offer? Yeah. Is it sad that we have to take that into consideration for the head coach of our favorite football team? Absolutely. But I do believe that he would not tolerate, much BS. There is an argument to be made that because he's a defensive-minded coach, you sort of tie one arm behind your back because you have to find a brilliant, innovative offensive play caller to call the offensive plays. And then if that person is good at their job, then we're talking about them, or people are talking about them the way that we're talking about Joe Brady or Liam Cohen or Ben Johnson, right? Those people generally get poached because it's an offensive game. It's an offensive league these days, and those are the guys that everybody wants. So it does seem a little bit of a lateral move relative to the landscape of the modern NFL. But if you believe he's the proper leader for your organization, then I don't have an issue with it personally. Bon Todd says we need a coach who brings discipline. That's kind of a wide, blanket to cast, I suppose. But I think Robert Saleh is somebody who's interested in instilling and inciting a culture. That goes without saying. He failed at that with the New York Jets. And again, he had some serious deterrence to that idea with the Jets. But that's why he's number 2 on my list. So, look, I can't believe that I'm about to say what I'm about to say either. That being said, my most preferred candidate, and if you're watching on YouTube, you saw him on the cover. My most preferred candidate to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys is Deion Sanders. Seriously. I mean, I'm as stunned and as shocked as you are. Now I'm going to get there or kind of lay out my rationale in a moment, but this is important to know. We wrote about this. I wrote about it at Blogging the Boys. This is Ed Werder, a friend of Blogging the Boys' this tweet from earlier in the day on Thursday. Regarding Deion Sanders, I'm being told that he would almost certainly accept if Jerry Jones offered to make him the next Cowboys head coach, that those around him are encouraging him to pursue it, and that Jones is enamored with the idea. Okay, so I think that there are 2 reasons to want Deion to be the head coach of the Cowboys, if you do. And for me, I think that they're both applicable. Like, they both kind of make up my thought on the matter. The pessimistic one, to build positively here, the pessimistic outlook is this team sucks, right? Like, this team's going to lose anyway. So we might as well have fun, right? Like, we might as well enjoy it. Let's enjoy it. Let's just lean into it. Let's steer into the skid type of thing, right? Like, that's the more depressing sort of element. I think there's some truth to that, certainly. I think that we all, and I'm not going to speak for all of us, US Master Flash, you, Bon Todd, anybody who's watching live, anybody who's watching after the fact, I'm not going to speak for us. So please don't believe that I am. But I think that we all, to different degrees, maybe similar, have experienced something where the Cowboys have just worn us down, right? Like, we're not going to tune out. We're not going to switch teams. We're not going to root for somebody else. We're going to watch every Sunday. Fine. You got us. Okay. That's how this goes. All right. We're in. But if we're going to experience this way, at least let it be entertaining. At least let it be fun. At least let it be different. Because if it's Kell Moore, if it's Jason Witten, it's more of the same. It's watching the same thing over and over again. We've seen this episode, right? We understand the plot. We know they're going to get together at the very end. He's going to say the thing, and she's going to laugh that way. Ha, ha, hoo. We've seen every single bit of it. Deion's something we haven't seen. And it's not just the prime time of it all, the primeness. I mean, it's not just that. It's just it is a bold decision to do that. If anybody were to ever, hire him to be their NFL head coach, it is bold. It is visionary. It is cunning. It may not be wise to some people, but it is all of those things. And so, yeah, I am in a position where I am ready to see the Dallas Cowboys. I think about, and shout out to my very good friend Bobby Belt from 105 to the Fan, producer for NFL Network. He's wonderful. Bobby's great. Known him for a long time. I steal this from him all the time. He used to reference, or he referenced once, and I've referenced it a million times, the moment in the 40-Year-Old Virgin when Steve Carell's talking to his coworker at the store, and he's saying, I'm not having any success. And the guy's like, well, what's wrong? And Steve Carell says, I'm whatever, and the guy says, well, you should try this. And Steve Carell says, I don't want to try that. It doesn't feel right to do that. And the guy says, right hasn't been working for you. Maybe it's time to try some wrong. And I'm not saying that Deion is wrong, but the right, if we define it that way, that the Cowboys have been trying, hasn't been working. I'm ready to see something else. I mean, because what's the worst that could happen? It's just a bit of a rhetorical question, but what is the worst thing that could happen if the Cowboys hire Deion Sanders? They won't win the Super Bowl? Oh, no. How will we ever deal with that? There'll be a circus? Gosh, that would be annoying. We have no idea what that's like. They'll make all sorts of headlines every single day, every single week, every single month. Well, you know what? That is a foreign concept to us. Like all of these things, these like bad things, these horrible things that could happen if the Cowboys hire Deion Sanders, bring it. This is our life. We know it. We live it every single day. We understand the way that this thing goes. So you're not scaring us by telling us that it could be a disaster. We're well accustomed to disasters by this point in our fandom. So that's kind of reason number one. Reason number two is just sort of a piggyback off of that. Look, I'm an Arizona State Sun Devil, Big 12 champion. Colorado doesn't know what that's like. Not trying to rub it in their face, but they don't. All right. That being said, we're talking about a Colorado Buffalo team that went 9-4 last year. Granted, they lost their bowl game to BYU, which is a tough scene. All right. But they had the Heisman Trophy winner. Their quarterback, understandably, a very talented player who's incidentally Deion's son, is going to be a top pick in this year's draft. These are all things that if I had told you would eventually happen to Deion Sanders' collegiate football team, whoever that ultimately wound up being, you would have said there's no way. You would have said there is no way that Deion is going to coach a team that accomplishes all of those things. It's impossible. No way. He's never even done it at college. He's never coached that level. This is all a joke. All the things that people said about Colorado. I'm not here to relitigate the Colorado discussion and everything that went into it because, again, there's clearly proof of concept. But if he pulled it off to even a mild degree at that level, can he not do it here? I'm not going to be the person that says it's impossible. There's no way. Deion can't do it. And that isn't saying that I do think it's possible. I think it's incredibly doubtful, but I think that possibility exists. I think that possibility exists for Kell Moore too, or even Jason Whitten, if we're getting completely ridiculous in this particular conversation. But because it is possible, look, at the very least, Deion is going to command a locker room in a way that Kell Moore isn't, that Jason Whitten isn't, that, even Robert Saleh isn't. Deion Sanders is going to have these dudes believing in a different sort of way than anybody else that we're talking about here, even the mighty Ben Johnson. So, yeah, I'm in on this. And maybe I'm just, this far down the rabbit hole, but this is my most preferred outcome at this point for the Dallas Cowboys. S Master Flash says, would Deion be able to recruit like he did in college? Not that Jerry would pay. I don't think so. I mean, obviously, we all understand that recruiting is a factor and an element of the highest degree in the world of college athletics, and that doesn't work in the NFL. You're talking about grown men, adults, right? And there's money involved, millions and millions and millions of dollars. You can be the greatest, smoothest talker in the game, but if the checks aren't there, they're not going to be there. That being said, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. Who's to say he couldn't recruit the Joneses, right? Who's to say Deion couldn't be the person, the Trojan horse, if you will, to come in and change the Joneses' mind and be like, dude, you got to open the checkbook. I mean, Prime is able to deliver these guys, but you're not doing your part. And Deion can stand up to the Joneses and be honest and be forthcoming with them in a way that Ben Johnson can, in a way that Kell Moore can, in a way that Jason Whitten can. So, yeah, I am all the way in on Deion Sanders. That is my most preferred outcome relative to the names that have been thrown out, relative to the practical options, the attainable options. Is it sad that we're having the conversation in this way? But, yeah, it's sad. Welcome to our lives. We know what this is. We're Dallas Cowboys fans. We've been bred in it in a very long time. You're not scaring us or startling us or offending us by telling us that this is sad. We've lived through a lot of sad things. So we're prepared for this. Deion Sanders should be the next Dallas Cowboys head coach. I can't believe that I think that either. But, it just kind of is what it is. My name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at RJ Ochoa. TikTok for the next couple of days at least at RJ.Ochoa. If you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below. If you're watching on Bleacher Report, you can leave a comment. You can also message me on Bleacher Report. You can follow me right down below in the Bleacher Report app. See all the teams I root for. Bleacher Report app, the very, very, very best app in the world of sports. I use it all day, every day. Make sure to check out bloggingtheboys.com for the latest and greatest in the world of the Dallas Cowboys. For now, I'm going to bid you all adieu. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, wonderful weekend. My picks in the divisional round, in case you're curious, I've got the Chiefs, I've got the Lions, I've got the Eagles, and I've got the Ravens. Pretty chalk all the way around, so sorry about that, but I think what I think. That being said, thanks so much, everybody, for hanging out. I will see you on Tuesday for our next live session at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Y'all have a great night. See you later.